What's up, SnowTracks Nation? I'm once again here in Valcourt, Quebec at the Gérard-Bombardier Ingenuity Museum, and I will be joined by Robin Martel, Ski-Doo's product manager for snowmobiles. Now today we're taking an in-depth look at some of the most exciting models for 2022 and answering some questions that we got from you, our viewers. The sleds we're going to be talking about in this video are the Backcountry X 850 and the Summit Expert 165 850 Turbo. So let's get started. So the first sled I want to talk about is the Summit X 850 Turbo Expert package. And I know a little bit about the Expert package, but I'm not a mountain rider. I know that it is for the absolute pinnacle of mountain rider who wants the best deep snow capabilities, being able to flick the sled around in the deep snow and get it to maneuver and do the things you want. But I would rather hear the technical side of what is that sled and what makes it special from you, who knows all the little details that I'm going to miss.
Well, basically, the Expert package is our deep snow laboratory. We've been experimenting with the Expert package with different tweaks year after year, and we might remember that in 2018 we came out with the shot starter, which is an industry first. You know, that's been trickled down to other segments too, but the first reason for developing it was for deep snow riding. And the benefits of that, of course, is weight, having something that's a lot less heavy than, for example, electric starter, and plus having the advantage of not having to crank start it all the time. So once it's started up, so this is an industry first, really a great feature on that sled. Then continuing on. In model year 20, we came out, of course, with the short tunnel, so giving even more capability to that to the sled and to the Summit family, the other models also. Then after that, we came with the turbo, of course. So factory turbo, bringing, of course, mountain riding and high altitude to a whole new level. And now this year, we're refining that even more and introducing a narrower ski stance with the 34 wide to really give the rider more agility, more precision during side hilling, and really adding a whole new dimension to the fun factor of riding that sled.
And is the 34-inch ski stance only available on the Expert package?
Yes, it is.
And I'm curious about that. That's one of the questions we had was, why go 34? What are the benefits to that? And at what point do you get too narrow?
That's a good question, and it's a question that we asked ourselves a lot during the development of that, and also during the testing with our deep snow ambassadors and all the feedback that we've gotten. So did a lot of tweaking, of course, with the engineering team, and the benefits, the feedback that we got, basically agility-wise. And during side hilling, the precision, and to go into even more technical terrain with the agility that ski stance brings is really adding a distinctive factor to that sled and the riding behavior of that sled as a whole to mountain riders and deep snow riders.
Is there a point where it can be too narrow?
It's always a question of the balance, yes, and if the chassis, I mean, it has to be a balance. It's a recipe, and it has to be an equilibrium between the platform, the chassis, and of course with the ski stance, and making sure that all those elements are coming together. But the answer to that question will depend, of course, on how the vehicle is built and basically designed. But I could imagine that there's only a certain amount that you can get in narrowness.
Before you just take the skis off completely and don't worry about them. Right. So a question we get asked so much it drives me nuts. And I don't have a perfect answer for it. You will, but I want it to come from you so that no one can argue with me and tell me I'm wrong. That drives me crazy too. But the turbo, the 850 two-stroke turbo, first two-stroke turbo in the industry from the factory, revolutionary new piece of technology, and the way you came about it with the electronic wastegate and altitude compensation was, quite honestly, it was genius, and it's spectacular technology. 165 horsepower is basically what that motor made stock, and that's the horsepower the turbo makes at sea level. It maintains it as you go up to 8,000 feet. Why 165 horsepower? Why not go bigger than stock? Or why not have it create more power than stock and maintain that to 8,000 feet?
Well, of course, the turbo is built on the 850 E-TEC architecture. In terms of robustness, in terms of durability, in terms of reliability, it's definitely an engine and a turbo package that will deliver constant performance. And as you mentioned, you will always get that gain going up in elevation, and it amounts to 40 horsepower plus when you're at 8,000 feet, and it's about 3% loss of horsepower per 1,000 feet. So, I mean, the gain to the rider there, the benefit is huge, because if you're on an 850 non-turbo, when you get up at that elevation, you're basically down to about 125 horsepower.
You're basically riding a 600.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. So basically, you know, stock turbo also, performance-wise, you get the reliability, and you really get a solid package that's able to take basically the most demanding rider where he wants to go in mountain areas.
So is it safe to say that the 165 horsepower number being the same as a non-turbo, is that so that you can trust this sled every day on the snow and know that you're never going to have a problem? If you pushed it past that point, I'm assuming what you saw would have been some reliability issues, maybe just small ones, but Ski-Doo's pretty focused on being reliable. So
Yep.
would that be fair?
The number one preoccupation is making quality engines, and it's been tested in with various parameters. There are some interesting things that came out from our testing, of course, but when we introduced it last year, this is how we wanted to go, just for the reasons that you explained, and to make sure that we always operate within the best parameters for the engine performance.
Interesting. So that pretty much covers off the stuff that I wanted to talk about summit-wise. But now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about the Backcountry, and the Backcountry X in particular. This is a model that I'm very familiar with because we have one in our fleet every year, and I put a lot of miles on it. Great crossover sled to do multiple things. It's really designed for that customer who truly does want to ride on the trail and ride off trail, so much more than we used to talk about Renegades being a crossover sled, and that was kind of funny to me because it never really seemed that way. But this truly is a crossover sled. So tell me a little bit about the Backcountry X and what it's made of.
Well, the Backcountry, of course, it's a great sled, and you know, starting with the suspension, we have the C-Motion, of course, and the RAS3, and also with the HPG plus shock packages, front and rear. And basically, the way that sled is configured with the 38-inch stance of the skis enables you really to have something that's very agile, able to perform well on the trail, but being able at the same time to go off trail. And then the way that it's been designed also with the different track options, you can have different tracks, 1.6, you can have a 2-inch. If you're going on the XRS model, we don't have it here today, but you can have the XRS with the 2.5 lug track option, and even the 154. So somebody that really wants to go even more off trail, they can configure their sled accordingly. But with the 146 track length, you're getting the best of 50-50 crossover, the best of both worlds, and giving you basically the freedom to go where you want while you're riding in the day.
So a question that I have, and I actually get asked a lot, is about the front suspension on the Backcountry X, because I've heard people say or suggest that it's basically just trail parts and mountain parts slapped together to make the front end, and that's why it's different than anything else. Is that true? Is that how it was built, or is it its own beast built specifically for a purpose?
Yeah, that's one thing that could be thought of, like for example, having the inspiration with Summit and with MXZ, and then blending those parts together. But in reality, it's a purpose-built. It's its own suspension basically. And yes, we did take inspiration from the deep snow segment and also inspiration from trail riding, and redesigned it basically to be a true 50-50 crossover suspension. So might have some similarities, but it's really its own design. It's really its own purpose-built 50/50 design for the Backcountry family.
So the only thing that it's taken from the Summit and from the MXZ is it's taken inspiration for maybe the characteristics of those two sleds and how you wanted to blend them. But in terms of parts, you've designed the front end to be its own unique front end.
Yeah, it's a unique design.
And I find that very interesting, because the suggestion that you just went into the parts bin and went, yep, those will work, and we'll throw those on, and then we get a 38 and it's all good to go. That always seemed non-Ski-Doo to me. That's not how Ski-Doo does things. So clearing that up is very good. So the last question I have for you is one that actually came from a viewer. His name's Ollie Gagnon, and he's from Facebook, is where we got the question from. And what he wants to know is basically about when you've got sleds like the Backcountry XRS 154, and then you've got sleds like the Freeride 154 with the sea level calibration. There's 146s that are in the same kind of boat.
Yep.
Why have both? Why do you need both that, I guess at a first glance, if you just glance at them quickly, seem like they're very similar? Is there a reason for having both of those, and what is that reason?
Well, yes, there definitely is a reason for having them both, and you know, there are some similarities, as you've pointed out. That is true, but in terms of how the vehicle is designed, if we look at basically the Freeride is going to be built with boosted shocks, of course. So you have a shock package on that sled that's capable of taking, you know, anything that you can throw on it, and also the guys that are going to be riding that sled, whether it be on flatland or wherever, they're going to be into, you know, jumping things and really taking that to the next level. The fun factor of jumping rocks or things like that, or you know, really pushing the sled to the maximum. And they're going to be doing mostly off-trail riding, of course. So the ski stance is narrower than on the Backcountry. So we're talking about a 36-inch ski stance on the Freeride. The lightweightedness also on the Freeride, it's, you know, built with a lightweight hood and things that are really distinctive.
Short tunnel.
Yeah, a short tunnel, exactly. And on the Backcountry side, you talked about the attributes there too. We have the 146, the 154, but just because the way, again, that it's going to be, you know, the basic overall geometry of the sled is going to be for different trail riding, giving you more possibilities to do some trail riding, but also having the fun of going off trail.
Better ride quality, better handling.
Exactly.
On trail.
And because you have the wider ski stance too, it's going to help you out a lot in doing and achieving that.
So the Freeride is adjustable ski stance as well, from 36 to 38.
Yeah.
And the Backcountry is adjustable from 38 to 40.
Yeah, exactly.
So that kind of covers two very distinct different widths, and gives you a lot of options for capabilities and where you want to go and where you want to ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you describe it in those terms, it becomes very obvious that these are two very different snowmobiles that just happen to have, I guess what it is that there's certain specs that people define a snowmobile by, right? It's engine size, track length, there's certain things that say that's this kind of sled.
Yeah.
And when those are the same between two sleds from the same manufacturer, it's easy to say, well, those are the same specs, right? But
and then
you got to look deeper.
Yeah, and the aura around the Freeride, I mean, it is its own sled, and there's always like something more about that sled. And every year we come out with unique coloration packages to make that sled stand out.
They are the most wild in the lineup,
more,
aren't
and
they?
it is
Freeride is always like, whoa!
It's a really nice sled, yeah, for sure.
Great. So that's been very informative. Thank you very much for all of those explanations and that much deeper look into the Summit and the Freeride and the Backcountry X. We appreciate that. Hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I hope that answered some of your questions. I know it answered Ollie's question. This is only one part of a 4-part series, so make sure you check out the other 3 videos to get all the answers to the rest of the questions I know you have.